This is Hardball with Chris Matthews, March 6, 2019.
Anka get her security clearance despite objections from the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, and the White House lawyer, Don McCain. They didn't think she qualified for this kind of top secret clearance. And last week, the New York Times did the same thing to her husband, overruling objections to grant his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Why are these two people such a problem for the FBI that they can't get cleared? For more, I'm joined by U.S. Congressman Ted Lieu, Democrat from California and a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Also, Cynthia Axtee, former federal prosecutor. Congressman, thank you so much, and thank you, Cynthia. It seems to me that this whole investigation of the president by everybody, the Mueller, of course, the House Democrats who are now in charge of New York District down there, of the New York Justice Department up there in New York in the Southern District, they're all coming at him. They're coming at his kid, his son-in-law. They're coming at his past business practices. Congressman, you got to know this is political war because Trump said you got a red line against going after my past business, and you're not going after my family. You're going to war, and he's saying we're not going to give you nothing, and we're going to stonewall you. Your thoughts?
Thank you, Chris, for your question. The first thing I want the American people to ask is, why is the Trump administration hiding information from the American people? And the reason there are all these investigations and the fact that the House Judiciary Committee has cast a wide net is because for the last 2 years, it looks like there's been a wide array of misconduct and what appears to be potential criminal behavior by Donald Trump, his family, and his associates. And we need to conduct our oversight duties and investigate all of those incidents.
Do you accept the red line he put up? No focus on my family, no focus on my past business. Because almost 2/3 of the American people, according to the new Quinnipiac poll today, believe he was a crook before he came to the White House.
Chris, the law does not have a red line. If Donald Trump or his family members committed crimes, the House Judiciary Committee wants to know about it. And if he committed crimes that are high crimes and misdemeanors, then we will have a conversation with the American people as to how to proceed. There are no red lines. We're going to leave no stone unturned. We're going to connect the dots if they are to be connected.
Where's this going to end up? Cynthia, you've seen this case. We've been talking about it for years with you. If Trump just says, no mas, no more stuff, I'm not giving you any. Nixon tried that, the court overruled it with the tapes. They said you're going to turn over the tapes whether you like it or not. Trump is acting like none of that ever happened, like he can somehow win this fight on evidence.
Well, to the extent that he's already given whatever evidence he gave to Mueller, the executive privilege, all his complaints, those are all waived. He's going to have to give all that to the House. The question is, those things that he hasn't already given to Mueller, who's going to force him to give those? For example, the security clearances. And I would predict that the courts require them to do that. Now, he's got a different argument about security clearances because whenever you're starting to deal in international affairs, there's a lot of deference to the president. But because it's a security clearance and because there's these allegations out there of serious misconduct with Kushner and Khashoggi and WhatsApp messages, in the end, I think a court is going to require them to turn over all that information.
Let me go back to the congressman on this. It seems to me that that is the problem here because the hard rock, what's it called, a rock and an unstoppable force meeting each other. I get the feeling that Robert Mueller and you guys are the unstoppable force, but I want to bring in NBC News reporter Carol Lee right now. She's at Duke University where former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly just finished speaking. Carol, what did we get from him? Did he rat out the president or not?
No, we weren't that lucky, Chris. He was asked about the security clearances and whether he intervened, and he really didn't want to talk about it. That was very clear. He said that he couldn't comment on it for two reasons. One, because it's security clearances, and two, because it was his belief that whatever conversations he may or may not have had with the president about this fell under presidential privilege. And then he said something to the effect of, you know, the press doesn't always get it right, and sometimes they get some things wrong in a story, if not the whole story, and then repeated that he wasn't going to talk about it. So it wasn't something that he wanted to get into at all.
Anything else about his kids and why he had incest? Well, there's an incestuous term there. Anyway, why does he have to have this Romanov thing going on at the White House? Why does he need Jared Kushner as his Middle East advisor? Why does he need his daughter, as smart as she might be, to advise him on everything? And he has to get clearances for them when the FBI says they're not worthy of clearances. What's Kelly's sense of that? Did he just give that away? What's Trump's obsession with nepotism?
No, he didn't really go there. He was really diplomatic, frankly, in the way that he answered a lot of questions. He was critical of some policies that the president had, like separation of children on the border. He blamed that on the attorney general. He didn't like deployment of troops to the border, things like that. He did say at one point that this being chief of staff was the worst job he had ever had, but also the most important job he had had. And he dropped a lot of hints about the kinds of difficulties that he had serving this president and being in the White House. He talked about the early days with the travel ban and said there was a very inexperienced group of White House officials there who didn't follow the process. He went through sort of how he tried to put some controls around the White House. He denied that he felt like he was the adult in the room, which our reporting shows he certainly did feel that way while serving as chief of staff. But he was generally kind of very, at times he invoked humor to answer some of the questions about how difficult it must be to work for President Trump. For instance, he said that his advice to his successor was to run for it.
Wow. According to CNN, but thank you, Carol Lee, down at Duke. According to CNN, President Trump pushed Chief of Staff John Kelly, as I said, and White House lawyer Don McGahn to make the decision on his daughter and his son-in-law security clearances, so it did not appear that he was tainting the process to favor his family. And after both men refused, President Trump pushed Jared and Ivanka's clearances right through, regardless of what the FBI or his people said. Well, just last week, the New York Times reported that the president ordered his chief of staff to grant his son-in-law a top security clearance, overruling concerns flagged by intelligence officials and the White House's top lawyer. Well, we said that. The decision was so troubling to Kelly and McGahn that they wrote memos documenting their objections. Trump and his daughter, Ivanka, both denied that the president influenced the process. However, let's take a look at that.
That'll be up to General Kelly. General Kelly respects Jared a lot, and General Kelly will make that call. I won't make that call. I will let the general, who's right here, make that call.
There were anonymous leaks about there being issues, but the president had no involvement pertaining to my clearance or my husband's clearance.
Congressman, this is really troubling because the president has seen the White House as his personal property, as an acquisition of Trump Inc., and he brings his family with him, and he ignores the normal procedures about who gets the top security information here, and then they're all apparently not telling the truth about it. Where's Congress come in on this?
So, Chris, this is not just an issue of nepotism. It's not like Donald Trump getting Jared Kushner or some government car to use. This is a security clearance. And the problem is that the CIA, the FBI, John Kelly, and former White House counsel all didn't want to give Jared Kushner a security clearance because he's a security risk. And he's a security risk because of all his compromising financial positions, all his foreign contacts. He had to submit at least 3 security clearance forms. I filled out these forms in the past. I had a security clearance before entering Congress. Anybody who had to submit 3 security clearance forms just simply would not have gotten a security clearance, and they may likely have gone to prison for making misleading statements. And that's why Congressman Don Beyer and I have referred Jared Kushner to the Department of Justice to investigate him for potential prosecution.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that information. That Jared Kushner's facing investigation for why he didn't get clearance. I want to know why the president wanted him despite the fact he didn't get clearance. Thank you so much, U.S. Congressman Ted Lieu of California, Cynthia Axton, as always, and Carol Lee down at Duke, where Coach K keeps winning. Up next, former CIA Director Leon Panetta joins me live to talk